Well, good morning, y'all. My name is Mark Banks. I am the founder and owner of Muse Creative Collab, a marketing service firm. And today I have the pleasure of moderating this panel with some really special guests. Directly to my right is Kendra Plummer, and I'm going to read her bio, and then Kendra, I have a question for you. So it'll be the opening question for all of you, so prepare yourselves. Kendra Plummer is a trailblazing hotel investor, entrepreneur dedicated to unlocking access to generational wealth through hotel ownership. As the founder and CEO of Elise Capital, she has spearheaded the firm's rapid growth, overseeing a portfolio exceeding $30 million in assets under management and pioneering an advisory platform that is ushering in a new era of diverse hotel ownership. Kendra's career began in hotel operations, where she quickly rose through the ranks across hotel management, asset management, feasibility and acquisitions, and development. Before launching Elise Capital, she served as the Director of Acquisitions and Development, underwriting over $1 billion in hotel transactions. So Kendra, my question for you this morning, since the panel is about legacy and building generational wealth, community empowerment, how do you define legacy in your own words?
Sure. So good morning, everyone. Very excited to be here. Again, my name is Kendra Plummer, and legacy to me is about creating an impact that withstands after you have left. So it's not only the generation coming, but it's the generation after that and thereafter. It's almost the gift that continues to grow and flourish. So legacy for me is not only just the financial legacy, but in my work as a hotel investor that, yes, includes the financial part of creating wealth-generating opportunities for generations to continue to grow and feed off of, but it also is community empowerment and advancement. Hotels are providing jobs, they're enhancing our communities, and so legacy for me is much more than just my assets, but it's how am I creating opportunities for people coming after me.
Thank you. Our next guest, Shamari Akil James. He's the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Equity Now, Inc. He is a dynamic leader committed to advancing economic and educational equity. As the driving force behind Equity Now, Shamari mobilizes resources and builds impactful collaborations across public, private, and corporate sectors to promote systemic change. His visionary leadership empowers the organization to create opportunities for families to thrive. Shamari, same question. How do you define legacy in this moment, and what does it mean to you?
Good morning, Mike Check. Thank you for having me, Shamari Akil James. Kendra took all the really good answers, so I don't know what I'm going to say now. But legacy translates into what purpose do you want to leave? We have a saying in one of our organizations, a legend is who you are and what you will be. So what legacy do you want to leave in the world as you're building that legacy? But legacy is also living. It's not something that stops even when you're gone. So as Kendra said, I personally want individuals to know my legacy, that when I leave here, a rising tide raises all ships, and I tried to help every single Black and brown person to become financially well and financially educated, because they're two completely different things. So that legacy is, what is your character? Who are you? What do you preach? And how do people know you? And one way to be able to get to that is always show up as your authentic self. Thank you for the question.
That was great, man. Thank you. Our last but not least guest is Wayne Hurd. Wayne Hurd is the Senior Vice President of Bank of America Private Bank. As a wealth strategies advisor, Wayne leads the deep and dynamic discovery process to achieve a holistic understanding of an individual's family, business, and financial goals to determine what is truly important in achieving peace of mind. His work with clients and their advisors helps to drive a strategic financial plan that integrates their unique financial, estate, tax, and philanthropic considerations and preferences. Wayne possesses a high level of technical expertise in complex estate, tax, and wealth planning issues, helping to achieve successful outcomes. Wayne will definitely be talking to you because planning for estates are very important. But same question, how do you define legacy?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you all. Legacy can be a complex dynamic or thought. I think it's deeply personal how we each define it. But for me, I think I have to back up. I was largely raised the early part of my life by my grandparents. And one thing that I had the blessing of hearing and being around them every day, they taught me, leave every situation better than you came upon it. That's a heavy burden, right? And sometimes we can't do that. And they would say, well, listen, at the very least, do no harm. And so for me, as I interact throughout life, I echo what, these panelists have already said. As I go throughout life, I don't ever want to be that reason that somebody goes home at the end of the day feeling beat up, right, or stressed out. I just try to leave every moment better than I came upon it, or at the very least do no harm. Sometimes legacy is out of our control, but I want to be remembered as that person that made a safe place for people to be comfortable in their own skin, and I listen to them deeply so.
Yeah. I think it's important that you mentioned the word complex, because when it comes to financial strategies, I believe that it's your relationship with money, not just the money, right? So It's
Exactly.
working on that. It's making sure that while you get money, you have a good relationship with it as well. So,
Yes.
Kendra, I'm going to come back to you for my next question. As an investor in hospitality and real estate, you've monetized industries not always seen as accessible to diverse entrepreneurs. How do you identify untapped opportunities and make them profitable?
Sure. So hotels, one of the things that I love about them is that hotels are both an operating business and a real estate investment. So to make sure that you're monetizing it, hotels really, they're profitable to begin with, but you can't mess it up. So it's about assessing the risk, and how do you protect your asset is really what it comes down to in investments. And so how I do that is by three key things. One is identifying the market. And so when it comes to my hotels, we currently have 3 hotels. And in those markets, what we're looking for is a diverse mix of demand, a diverse mix of industry. We're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. A lot of hotels that failed during COVID was because they were relying on just one industry and one business coming in. And if that business goes away, then you have nothing. So that's the same mindset of when you're thinking of all types of investments, is how do you diversify your risk? That's the first piece. The second piece is making sure that you have the right team in place. And if you don't, knowing how to train that team, because again, it is an operating business. So in protecting that asset, revenues are great, but if you can't drive that revenue down to profit, it really doesn't mean anything. So having a team that knows how to operate the hotel in the most efficient and productive manner is key. And then the third piece is your partnerships. Going into each of my hotels are done through collective economics, where it's typically a group of investors coming in, and having the right investment structure is going to be imperative to having a successful asset as well. So those 3 key things are how we're making our assets profitable.
I'm glad you mentioned that last point. You talked about collective investing. For people who may want to get into it, how could they start? Is it, getting a group of friends, family? Bring it down to the level of people who are just trying to get into, investing.
Yeah, so for hotels, the same way you purchase a hotel is basically the same way you buy a house. You are going in both with equity and with debt. So for Elise Capital, we operate as the general partner, which means that we are sourcing the deal, we are figuring out the full due diligence, determining the feasibility of the asset, and then presenting it to investors to come alongside us and acquire the hotel. So for Elise Capital, how we accept investors is just through relationships. So that is talking to me and, subscribing on our website to know when our new and latest deals are coming about. And it's also being ready for when that deal does come. So the investment size for deals can vary. It all depends on the size of the asset and how much equity needs to be raised. But a good starting point is to, with those collective economics, how some of our investors work is that they'll tap into, maybe it's 5 friends coming up with $5,000 each, and now they have $25,000 to invest into one of our deals. or for some people, they're investing through their self-directed IRAs or things of that sort. There's a lot of ways in our community that we do have access to wealth. We just have to use it.
Thank you. So
Can
y'all
I-
heard that. Please connect,
Can I
connect with.
can
go
I
ahead,
add to
go
that
ahead.
super quick?
Yeah.
So one thing that happens is gatekeeping and individuals who don't look like us not sharing information. So you don't know oftentimes about how the things you do early on impact you later. So accredited investor and becoming an accredited investor and understanding what being an accredited investor means is also key, right? Because with historical context, if you are doing deals and you keeping your money under the mattress and you have $1 million hiding in your closet, you are not an accredited investor. So we have to overcome some of these historical fears that we have had with institutions that have typically done us wrong and find those that we trust and then learn this language like accredited investor and keep that money in the bank. So then when you go to get these deals, you actually have the assets and the capital and the history to be able to become into all of these deals that individuals are putting out there.
Yeah, thank you, man. And that actually goes into our next point. Your work centers on organizational strategy and business planning. As you mentioned, keeping money under the mattress, what's the biggest mistake you see business owners make when trying to monetize their skills or their talents, and how can they avoid it?
Oh, good question. So my degree is in engineering, so my first thought is what gets measured makes progress, which is a quantitative piece, but I think I'll take it from the qualitative perspective first. I don't know if we value relationships enough and how much they impact things in business. I was listening to a panel the other day. They were talking about deals being done on the golf course. Well, they're also done at the Gathering Spot, at HQ, at Ned's, and other private clubs, right? So valuing the relationships that you have with individuals from the janitor all the way up to the CEO. If you treat individuals right and you make that relationship, you never know who knows somebody else. So one, from a qualitative perspective, just manage, love on people because you never know what individuals are going through, and keep relationships strong. From a quantitative perspective, I think especially from minority businesses, black and brown, I think we undervalue our work. So strategically, when we come in, we will have a product or a service, and we will value that product or service, right? But we don't put a multiple on our time. So when we're talking about evaluating that business and putting a valuation on that business, we have to additionally talk about, hey, I get $500 an hour. So therefore, this goes into the valuation of my business. The last thing I'll say about why that impacts us as black and brown organizations, businesses fail within the first 5 years about 50 to 60% of the time. Black and brown businesses fail when you add that in 90% of the time in the first 5 years. And one of the number one reasons is because if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. So therefore, you're failing at a higher clip because you're not budgeting. It's very simple. I use the word simple, not easy. It's not easy to budget, but it's simple to budget. So the number one and number two, relationships, and then know your business from a budgetary
And
perspective.
follow up. So you talk about relationships. How do you feel about this, AI push that's happening? Do you think that'll be harmful to the relationship building? Connecting with real people, not depending on the machines to do everything. Like, what's your perspective from that point?
Yeah, really good question. So AI is a humanoid. We are humans with DNA. So AI can never replace the interaction and the energy that I have with Kendra. So we can have these conversations with AI all we want to, and it can spit information out. But when an individual sits across from me at the table, before words even come out their mouth, the fourth level of listening is forensic listening. So I'm watching Kendra's eyes when I say something. I'm watching her lips. I'm watching if she gets tight and grabs her pants when I say something. So AI will never, ever be able to do that. So I can use AI to make myself sharper when I go into the business meeting. But as a humanoid, it'll never replace the DNA that I have inside of me, especially at my highest self with my spirituality, to be able to look through the window of somebody's eyes and see their soul. And that's really big when doing business.
I agree, man. Thank you. Wayne, my next question is for you. From your vantage point in private banking, what's one overlooked financial strategy that entrepreneurs should adopt early to set themselves up and their estate for generational wealth?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question, and it's very easy or simple to answer that. It's counterintuitive. You want to begin with the end in mind. Too often, we walk into an opportunity and we don't have a thought of how we're going to exit this opportunity. I see this every day with business owners. So you open a business, you create a business, and make it successful, you budget, you manage your cash flow, your tax strategies perhaps, but then you look up and say, okay, I'm going to retire. Well, what does that exit look like? Are you going to transition it to a child? How are you going to make that exit? Private equity, an ESOP? What does that look like for you? So it sounds counterintuitive, but you want to begin with the end in mind, because if I know what the end needs to be, if I know this is what I need for my annual income, if I know this is what I want to do as far as philanthropic giving or helping position my children or other people for success with annual gifting, I'm probably going to navigate my business to make sure my value is up to where I need it to be for that exit, including taxes, and it's going to determine the type of exit that you approach it with.
Absolutely. I always tell my clients when I'm consulting, what's your end goal? Where do you want to end? And we can work our way backward on a plan. So I completely agree with that. This last question is for all of you. So Kendra, I'll pose it to you first. In this moment, as we face the onslaught of news and current events that can be destabilizing to markets, from AI to political headwinds, what's one action every attendee can take or commit to in the next 30 days to start building their legacy?
Sure. So when it comes to me and my business, one of my grounding principles in scriptures is always write the vision and make it plain. So that is always my go-to, and I think that that's what everyone should be doing in their next step, is almost like what Wayne just said, and what's your end goal. Write the vision, make it plain. There's going to be a lot of different changes that happen in our economies, in the way that things are moving right now. There's going to be a lot of changes that happen in our lives as well. But if we don't have what our vision is, to know what our end goal is, then we're just going to be wandering aimlessly, and that gets us nowhere. So for everyone, I will always encourage our next steps to be write the vision and make it plain, and then develop our strategy and roadmaps from there.
Awesome. Shamari, same question.
Yeah, love that, Kendra. So my wife and I, we just came off a 21-day fast, journaling, no sugar, no carbs, no alcohol. I did raw fruits and vegetables for the first 5 days. And the point of that is not necessarily to lose weight, even though I got a couple pounds right here I could let go of. But the point of that was to come back to self, to reset. There are a ton of things, whether it's Instagram, it's Facebook, it's CBC, ALC, it's InvestFest, CNN, Fox News, that program us consistently. So how do we know the thoughts that are in our head are our own actual thoughts? Because there is intentional programming that is consistently running over and over and over again to make you think and believe something. You ever look at a McDonald's commercial and then all of a sudden an hour later you're hungry? So I digress slightly. To answer the question explicitly, it is to be with your highest selves. And sometimes that means you have to unplug, red pill, green pill from the matrix. So once you unplug and then begin to introduce things back into your system slowly and see how your body reacts to them, physically, spiritually, and mentally, then you can get on a path such as, do you have a financial statement for you and your family? Do you have a will or a trust? Do you budget? Budget is one of the most boringest things ever in the world, but the most critical. It is very difficult for you to have legacy and build generational wealth if you don't know how to budget, because if you can't handle $100, you're never going to be able to handle $100 million. So the first thing that I would say to you is ask yourself, are you grounded spiritually, mentally, physically, and then move into the financial, having that conversation. And if you say no, then pause for a moment, whatever a fast looks like to you, from a weekend to a half a year, whatever that may be. But remove some of those vices that keep you inside of the program to then get to having the conversations with individuals you love to get to your legacy.
And I can second that budgeting is boring because, and the more you have, the longer you spend budgeting because it's more, assets, and you can spend hours at your computer just sitting there pretty bored. But it's very necessary, and the payoff is great. Wayne, same question. What can every attendee commit to in the next 30 days to start building their legacy?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for it. I'm going to read a quote from Sun Tzu. Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before the defeat. If I were to ask everyone in this room, by a show of hands, who has an estate plan? The answer is every single person. So if you haven't created a will or all of those ancillary documents, that means the state where you live and reside, they're going to do it for you. They're going to decide how those things are transitioned. So the number one thing as far as action, this gets kind of to everything that has been said, is assessing where you are now and then creating a framework so your legacy can be fulfilled, right? Go home, maybe look at a personal finance statement, and also look at how your accounts are titled and how your estate plan is structured. And then ask yourself, if something were to happen to me today, would this flow the way I want it to? Would it go to the purposes and causes I want it to go to, right? Would my family know what my wishes are even, right? That's critically important. I think that's the first step that I would encourage us all to take as we walk away from this great event is let's assess where we are and what our plan is.